going on, everybody? This is Moose and Brian here from OccupyFantasy.com at OccupyFantasy on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. I am your host, Moose, at CFB_Moose on Twitter is where you can find me. Co-founder and data guru here at OccupyFantasy.com. Alongside Brian at Brian Jester FF on Twitter. He's the co-founder and CEO of Occupy Fantasy at Brian Jester FF on Twitter is where you can find him. What's up, Brian?
What's happening, Moose? I'm feeling good. Did the UFC stream about an hour ago. I got some Chick-fil-A in the fridge waiting for me as soon as this stream's done. So, good afternoon, Bruin.
I know, nice. I have some leftover birthday ice cream cake for my fiance. So, that's going to be brewing.
Leftover birthday ice cream cake hits real good.
Definitely. So this is not a stream about which food to pick for lunch. It's actually about NFL DFS. Yes. Thanksgiving is coming soon, which means we get to have the DraftKings tweet of you have $50,000. What's the Thanksgiving meal? So I always look forward to that one.
Yes.
But let's talk about NFL. If you're here, you want to say hello, you can go ahead and say hello. If you want to go ahead and ask questions, you can. Or if you just want to lurk and just watch the show, totally cool if you do that as well. We're going to be here for about 30 minutes or so, answering your questions, talking about NFL, some stacks we like, some players we like, and just shoot some shit along the way. So, Brian, let's talk about, we'll say I don't want to say breaking news, but news that just broke. Cowboys.
I don't want to say breaking news, so I'll say it very slightly differently.
So the Cowboys brought up, or they activated Quadre Allison to the active roster. So, one, is this anything? And two, if it is anything, what does it mean?
It certainly seems like something. I think when it was Tony Pollard week 2 weeks ago, the vibe in Dallas from reporters, from what Jerry Jones was saying, we know Jerry Jones is very optimistic on injury timelines. It sounded like Zeke was just going to rest through the bye week last week and then come back this week. He was limited in practice every single day, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And I think it was just the natural assumption that Zeke would play this week. Mm-hmm. What the reporters and coaches wouldn't necessarily confirm that. And as I was doing all my injury stuff yesterday, I kind of got the vibe. I was like, man, this is kind of weird. Like maybe he's not playing. Let's check. Let's wait for tomorrow. I have it in my notes. Let's wait for tomorrow and see. So they called a running back from the practice squad. They're not going to have 4 running backs active, which generally means, unless they're extremely unhappy with their running back 3, which I doubt, it sounds like Zeke's going to miss the game. And if that's the case, that does open up something. Again, we can't confirm this. I'm sure a national reporter will say something between now and midnight to get word on this. But it seems like Pollard's going to play and start, and Zeke's not going to. Now, it's not like Pollard was a couple weeks ago where he's a free square. His price is elevated, but now Mosey's still a great play. And it does open up some salary on a week where we don't have very many running backs that are cheap.
Yeah, I think he's a 6,500 on DraftKings. I think you said he's 7K on FanDuel. So, not a free square, but as many popular. If you're trying to fit in some more popular stacks, more popular players, he's definitely someone that can get you there.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, because before, it was every week we've complained about running back pricing, and we really only have one mispriced running back this week in Damien Pierce, and that's only on DraftKings. Everyone else is 7K or higher. For the most part, we have a couple of guys that were interested in the 6K range on both sites, but it's this changes a little bit, and we'll have a little bit of a different lineup construction than we have had most weeks.
Yeah, and so let's just jump right into that next section of let's see. Actually, speaking of running backs, Starler's dad says thoughts on Pierce versus the top run defense, even though he has a heavy usage at 33% ownership on DraftKings. Think Pierce can get there, Brian?
It seems bad, right, Starlord's dad? Like you just put everything aside and just look at that. I think your question is hinting at that you think it's bad. I agree, right? That doesn't seem great. It's just it was more of a product. I think as Chris put out in the plug in his slate notes, it's just more of a product of the lack of value running backs. So I agree. I think it's a bad play. I do think that ownership will drop some now, Moose, if Tony Pollard is the guy. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think that just gives you even more reason, more ammo to get off Pierce in high risk contests. So I understand it for sure. But as Chris points to in the plug, it's hard. There's no one in that range with that usage. But look at last week, Moose, in that Thursday night game. we could very easily see Pierce go 29 carries, 117 yards, no touchdowns, score 14 DraftKings points, and that's nice, low risk, but that's not gonna get us anywhere in GPPs.
Exactly, yeah. And I want to say the model apparently knew Pollard was going to be good because I think he's 12th or something in the model right now.
So. The model all knowing for sure.
Definitely. But yes, let's just talk about next steps. If you're putting in Pollard, you're putting, there's not many value running backs. Let's talk about some stacks. And the first stack that we will talk about, it's in the Daily Plug over at Occupy Fantasy, is Cleveland, Miami. Or I guess we can talk about it from a higher level standpoint. If there's not many if there's not many value running backs, and there's a lot of expensive wide receivers, how are you going to try and fit in stacking, Brian?
So I went gal brain last week, right, with some crazy stack ideas. We're back at it this week, and I think again we have to continue to evolve as the NFL continues to suck for the most part as far as scoring goes. And now this week especially, look at these stacks, right? We have Cleveland at Miami, Jacksonville-Kansas City. Jacksonville's a 10-point dog. Minnesota in the snow against Buffalo. We'll talk about some other ideas here in a second. I really like Chicago and Detroit. And that's a great stack for me as well. I'm sure it pops in your rankings too, Moose. But I think, as we've talked about in the $1 Million Mission the last couple of weeks, it's really there's only a couple of offenses that can support a 3-1 stack. Miami is one of them for sure. Kansas City is one of them. Can these other teams? Probably not. So I think moving to 2-1 stacks for most of them, and hell, even 1-2 stacks or 1-1 stacks, even 1-0 stacks. One of the things that I was discussing this week and throwing around was if there are some cheaper quarterbacks you like. I know in Discord 15 minutes ago I put out like Denver stacks this week, but there are a bunch of quarterbacks, right, most on both sites that are in that bottom half of the salary range. I think you can find which one you like, and I think a very viable approach this week is to play the quarterback that you like the most. Ideally, they have some rushing upside, and 2-1 stack another game. So maybe 2-1 stack Miami, you 2-1 stack Kansas City, whatever it is. I think it's a very viable approach on a week where the running back pricing doesn't help us fit in a lot of guys.
Yeah, and you mentioned you like Denver. It was like completely blew me away like 5 minutes before the stream. So I went to our builder, and I'm gonna go ahead and show our builder. I didn't optimize it for the screen, so it looks a little terrible. But let me see if I can make this look halfway decent. No, I can't. You have to trust me on this. You see exposures here. 100% Russell Wilson. I'm just trying to see what would fit in it. This right here, 75% Tyreek Hill, 70% Cooper Kupp, 60% Jerry Jeudy. So what I was trying to say is if you're one something stacking, you could do Wilson, Hill, Kupp, Jeudy, maybe run it back with Derrick Henry. You have Tony Pollard to save some salary there as well. What I'm trying to say is if you stack these cheaper players or stack oddly but uniquely, you can fit in some pretty cool stuff.
You can fit in some really cool stuff. That's a great way to explain it because you look at Jared Goff, for example, one of the higher total games. You play Goff plus Jerry Rice, right? Now you have a 2-0 stack. You really don't need to run it back with the Bears because they run so much. Maybe run it back with Montgomery. I think that's a great idea. And now you can play Waddle and Hill together. And then you can play Kelsey and Juju together. And now you're essentially game stacking just without the quarterback. It's an interesting approach, and I really like it this week. And again, I think you could argue for a few different ways to play it, a few different quarterbacks that fit that mold. Yeah, I think that's certainly a way to go.
Definitely. Yeah, and Sean says, need some galaxy brain advice on what to tell the misses while patiently hunting the spike week. It's a very important question.
There's not much you can say, man. You gotta hold out hope because nothing you can say right now. Well, the first mistake I think is being transparent. Obviously that's important in a relationship. I would say that I would keep that separately. Only tell her about the wins. But there's not much you can do. Only the wins will make that better. So let's just get us a spike week here, and then that'll solve all the problems. That's
when you just say. I saw some articles on Twitter about people getting delayed withdrawals from some sports books. It's happened to all of us. You say, hey, I put in the withdrawal request, but they said it's going to take a couple weeks to get there. That'll buy you a couple weeks.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. If it gets bad, Sean, yeah, just use the we're waiting on the withdrawal excuse. But you gotta accelerate the process a bit once you use that excuse. So you gotta hit pretty quick after that.
Definitely. .bet says Etienne hasn't gotten much receiving work. May change this week versus Kansas City defense that gives up a ton of receiving yards to the running back position. Any thoughts about Etienne?
Yeah, I love that. He's one of the top plays in the model this week, and I assume Dot Bets is asking. I'm sure he's looking for an ETN receiving prop. I can't blame him. As 10-point dogs, I think it makes a ton of sense because that's the role we saw him in before J-Rob was traded and before that one game before he was traded. He was using that receiving role more than he was in a traditional running back role. So, yeah, I'm on board there. I think we see him exceed the receiving totals he's had in the past few weeks.
Definitely. Chris, our NFL writer, says Kyron Williams officially activated. Running back?
Dude, this situation is so wild, dude. So
Yeah.
it's so weird, right? So like before week 1, Adam Schefter, one of the most influential reporters when it comes to news and who gets what, said he's starting Kyron Williams in his fantasy league week 1, and this is when they had Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson. And everyone's like, all right, well, maybe don't be so bad at fantasy. But 2, what does he know about Kyron Williams that we don't know, right?
Yeah.
Then you read Jordan Rodriguez, their beat reporter, you read some other stuff. Like they love the dude. And they've been looking at every chance to get this guy involved. Unfortunately, in that first week, he like just destroyed his ankle on the opening kickoff. Now he's finally back. Jordan Rodriguez said yesterday in her Athletic article that all indications in practice are they want this guy to have a pretty big role, right? We know they hate Darrell Henderson. I mean, they hate Darrell Henderson so much that they were giving some guy named Ronnie Rivers carries over him over the past couple of weeks. So it would not be shocking to see Kyron Williams lead this backfield. He's minimum price. Maybe an afternoon only or whatever slate he's on. Maybe a subset slate only play. Definitely a showdown play. If you have a super high risk tolerance, maybe 150 max, you throw him in some. But it's a situation to monitor because we know Sean McVay loves doing random shit with his running backs.
I was trying to see if let's see if I can find. I was trying to see what his showdown price is. Yeah, he's on the 425, the 4 p.m. game. So I mean that's a fantastic afternoon only play, CC
Yes.
Jack, if you're listening. But let me see really quick. Let me make sure I don't click on the $1,000 entries and accidentally submit a $1,000 Rams Arizona showdown lineup. What is he? Yeah, $200 on the showdown slate. So I know people. Yeah, I know people aren't as sharp playing the derivative slates. So if you want to go ahead and pick off some stuff there, definitely go ahead and play him. Play him in at $200 in those slates. Yep. Let me see if there's anything else. Star Wars Dad says thoughts on Keelan Cole as a trash play and GPPs on DraftKings.
Yeah, good question. So Hunter Renfrow is on IR. Darren Waller is also on IR. Fortunately, we've seen this situation play out. And when Renfrow was out earlier in the season, I want to say weeks 3 and 4, it's when we had the infamous Matt Collins game. Keelan Cole has run a route on a lot of snaps. Like I'm talking, 75, 80, 90% plus of snaps. He's out there with those other guys. So yeah, super cheap. I understand it. I think Chris even talked about him in the plug. GPPs, I get it. I much prefer him in cash games. But if he scores a touchdown, you open up a lot of your lineup. So I understand it. It's just that generally we don't see those plays pan out that often unless they're 40% owned and named Matt Collins in GPPs.
Yeah, definitely. Ed says, here's your spike week stack, and it's a bunch of people.
I like it.
I like it, dude. Cool. So let's look on to the next stack. It talks about Jacksonville at Kansas City. We all know Kansas City's explosive offense. That Jacksonville side can be a little sneaky sometimes. We've already mentioned ETN. But Brian, what's your thought on this?
I think it's one of the rare scenarios where I think it's a rare scenario where you definitely actually want to run it back in a 10-point spread. If you've watched these shows before, we talk about when the spread gets over 7. We're talking multiple scores. You don't have to run it back. You play 3-0 stacks, 2-0 stacks, whatever. But Jacksonville has so much concentrated offense. So many guys are underperforming. I mean, Christian Kirk is underpriced. Marvin Jones is officially an underperforming wide receiver. Zay Jones could certainly qualify, just misses the mark. Evan Ingram, a cheap tight end, and then ETN dominating at running back. A lot of different ways you can run it back. So the Kansas City side, yes, run it back. And I think, speaking of, looking for cheaper quarterbacks, I think this actually, despite us rarely playing 10-point dogs moves in stacks, you can certainly play Trevor Lawrence in stacks, play 1 or 2 of his guys running back with one of the Chiefs guys, and still have a lot of money left to spend at other positions.
Yeah, I mean, he's 5,400 on DraftKings, 7,000 on FanDuel. I don't hate it at all. He could let you pay up for some more expensive players, one-offs, and I like it there. And then the last stack or maybe not even a stack, but side of a game is that Minnesota side. The weather's not going to be good. I'll just throw this first part out there, Brian. I know Buffalo wasn't mentioned, but is it Case Keenum season?
So here's another thing, right? Let's monitor the weather. The one tough thing, Moose, is we can't dissect what is moving that line. Obviously, Josh Allen being likely out has dropped that total 5 points or whatever it is. But I would have loved to seen if he was in what that total would have done with this weather, because we got light snow throughout the game, right on the border, 15-mile-per-hour winds. But obviously, just being Case Keenum there lowers the ceiling for the entire game. Buffalo is missing some defensive starters. That certainly helps. I don't know, man. It's a tough spot. It's a tough spot to figure out. If you want to play Minnesota stacks, I get it. If you want to play Case Keenum, I that goes back to that same point. Moose playing a cheap quarterback, 5K or whatever he is. Pair him with Diggs, pair him with Gabe Davis, whatever. Don't pair him with anybody at all, and play a 2-1 stack in another game. I think that works too. So I don't hate it.
You know what? The thing about this stack, the whole time I've been thinking about, like the Minnesota side just sets up perfectly for a mega stack for small field, single entry contests.
Okay.
Like I feel like you can just absolutely Minnesota has such a concentrated offense that you can just play all the players that you need, and then just basically punt defense, maybe punt a tight end, play Pollard, play a super cheap wide receiver, running back, maybe running back if maybe not, but I feel like the pieces just fit just enough to where Minnesota could be a good super stack.
I like it too. With the line moving their way, should see the ball more with Case Keenum instead of Josh Allen. I dig that as well. Carmen in the chat says flurries and 37 degrees here really isn't much. Yeah, for Bills fans, I mean that's springtime, that's summertime. They'll flourish in 37-degree weather and light snow. I do worry a bit about the dome team coming to play out there. The fans, if we could roster the Bills fans, the weather would not have an impact. But I have a feeling the Vikings and a back quarterback certainly changes things a bit.
Yeah,
and as Starlord's dad says, Tre'Davious White is back, who they've missed the entire year. They're their best cornerback, so that changes some things too.
Yeah, I know when I was in Buffalo last year around this time, and I'm in like a winter jacket, and people are walking in t-shirts, and I'm like, these people are just different.
Yeah, man, it's different up there. It's they are built different, quite literally.
Definitely. So we talked about the stacks that are in the plug. Brian, I know you mentioned Denver, and then we kind of briefly talked about the concept of Denver, but not actually about Denver itself. So I'll let you, for however long you want to talk about Denver stacks, if you want to talk about Denver stacks.
Denver stacks are certainly more of an abstract concept than something you should actually do in practice. So here's the big reason for me, right? We're looking for different ways. This popped a little bit in my rankings. One of the big reasons it gets a boost is because Tennessee is absolutely decimated. They're missing their star defensive tackle, Jeffrey Simmons. He's going to be out. They're missing their best pass rusher, and Bud Dupree. He's going to be out. One of their safeties, Amani Hooker, I think he missed their last game, but he started this season. He's out. And Zach Cunningham, their middle linebacker, or weak side linebacker, he's out as well. So we got 4 guys injured, out. One of their corners, Christian Fulton, is questionable with a hamstring injury. That's never great either. Denver coming off a bye. Yes, top of the list, loser list coaches for sure. Like there's no doubt about it. They probably run the ball here. They traded for another running back, for Christ's sakes, before the bye. Like, how many running backs do you need on this team? We're probably all very disappointed. But Russ to Judy, Russ to Cortland Sutton, Russ to Greg Dulcich, who's I don't know if he made the official list, Moose, but he's damn close for underperforming tight end. Maybe that's just the way you go. You play Russ Wilson, you play Dulcich, you punt the tight end. Maybe you run back with Henry, maybe you don't. But now you can play literally whatever else you want with the rest of your lineup. So again, we're going to be disappointed. There's no doubt about it. But I think there's a lot of merit to at least considering the idea, or at least playing around with the lineup builder to see what you think about it when you build those lineups.
Definitely. Now I was looking at the injury report. They did talk about that. KJ Hamler's out. Was he out last week? Last game?
No, but that just, I mean, that concentrates it even more, right? Like no random deep balls to KJ Hamler. So.
I mean, we don't want to even it's like Curtis Samuel play like Montrell
play their backup
Washington
slot
or something.
receiver. Yeah, no. I mean, we're talking bad plays enough already.
Definitely no. I mean, it goes to the we talked about this before, where if you play an expensive stack, sometimes you need to play Curtis Samuel cheap piece, or maybe fill it in with some other cheap one-off spots, or this other way where if the entire stack is cheap and you can pay up for expensive players the other way. Just make sure that it fits and you're not punting too many positions. But yeah, I don't hate it.
And I will say, and Hags asked about this in Discord a little bit earlier this afternoon, that does this win very often? No. In fact, it doesn't win rarely ever. So I know you're stick with me here. But again, this season is extremely different, right? Like scoring is down across the board, correlation is down across the board, pricing is bad on both sites. So it changes a lot of things about what we have historically have known about NFL DFS. Again, that's why we talk about the lineup builder so much. Again, if you can't afford it, you don't want to pay for it. You don't. Yeah, I understand. Like we totally understand that, right? But if you have the means and the time, I think it's worth an investment because it allows you just to play around because it can do so many things so much faster and so much more efficiently than we can do by hand. That for me, it's like, oh, this afternoon, I have this Denver idea, like you just showed on screen. Let's just see what we can do with this type of lineup instead of us like trying to actually figure it out with our actual minds. So, yeah, I would say even if you don't want to play Denver and that you're very sane, in the right mind, not wanting to do that. But maybe it's a different game that you want to try it out, and I think it's very important to test.
Let's do that next week. I know I mentioned it a couple weeks ago, but let's actually plan for that, Brian. That maybe we have an idea, maybe not 3 minutes before the stream, and
it came to me. What am I supposed to do, dude? It came
No, I know. You just saw the canvas and you started painting. But yeah, I'll make sure that the lineup builder can be shown better on stream here. We'll go through it. We'll bring it up and let it build in the background while we're talking about other things as well. But yeah, I love that idea. And it says, can we talk about the misinformation going around about the Giants rushing D? Pierce is going to be the biggest bust of the slate, 135% fade for me.
All right, so we got Star-Lord's dad saying it. We got Ed saying it. Man, you guys know what this is setting up for, right? Pierce smash slate. Like we got too many people saying it's a fade. So I don't know, man. Again, let's check, right? Because if we get Tony Pollard news, his ownership's gonna Pierce's ownership is gonna drop. So let's monitor.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. So let me go ahead and pull because we only got a couple more minutes left. Let me pull the wide receiver model up. Brian's been 3 weeks since we've done this as a show together. I know. So I'm gonna go ahead, do DraftKings ownership less than 10%, and price, what was it, 5K?
Yes.
5K. And what you see on screen here are those wide receivers. Wow, it's like filters work. We're going to guess which wide receiver is going to get a touchdown. So I will let you go first, Brian.
This is a list. My God. What is this list?
This is a bad list.
Ooh, it's bad, dude. I'll go Marvin Jones. I know it's cheating because he's top of the model, but he's only 6% owned. In the game stack that we like, underperforming wide receiver, I'll say Marvin Jones, and I'll let you go with the Galaxy Brain one.
Yeah, I know. These are all just like bad though. All right. Really bad. So I'm gonna go again. I said I like the Minnesota mega stack. I'm gonna go KJ Osborne.
Okay. I like it. It's not, you're the king of 1% touchdown calls. So, but let's bet. Instead, maybe we play him in DFS. Maybe we just go bet his touchdown prop.
I mean, our tagline is join the 1%, and Osborne is 1%. Let me check the OccuProp radar really quick off screen to see if KJ Osborne even has a player prop.
Hey, while you do that, Moose, I will answer these quick rapid fire questions in the chat. Okay. Bet says, is Treylon Burks back for Tennessee this week? Expected to be. We'll know by 4 p.m. Eastern here. He was cleared for locker room media on Friday, which is generally a good sign. He said he's going to be back. I assume he's back full speed, whatever that means. So yeah, he's a run back option in that game as well. David says Taylor looks like a good tournament play. Again, we're worried about high ankle sprains, but his price is finally not priced like he's the best running back in the league anymore, like it was for the first 7-8 weeks. So I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. Deion Jackson's out. No threat there. Hines is gone. I could certainly see that.
Cool. Okay, so I saw a line. His touchdown line is 9-1 over on FanDuel for KJ Osborne to score a touchdown. But I saw another line that I actually wanted to just check really quick first.
9-1's pretty good.
It's very good. But if we look here, where is it? All right. So this is like the most galaxy brain. Like maybe it's just a large number, and you should play it. But KJ Osborne scored 3 touchdowns over at PointsBet is 750 to 1. I feel like no player should be 750 to 1 to score 3 touchdowns.
Not a guy who plays 70% of the snaps, no.
Yeah, so
let's just bet that and you can retire.
I actually just put $1 on that. So
Well, you can't retire with $1. But you also be cut off anything more than $1. So.
I mean, I'm probably getting cut off after $1 anyway. So.
For sure.
I'll use my $5 free bet on it. There we go.
Not definitely getting cut off.
Perfect. So, yeah, everyone join me and let's move that line down to like the points bet trading teams. Be like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, who just gave that out? Which shark team just gave that out?
Definitely. Liam just says, can you touch on Detroit, Chicago quickly? Unless I missed it. Higher total, but not a preferred stack in the plug.
Yeah, let's see if we can bully Chris into including that in the plug update tonight.
Okay.
I like it a lot too. Yeah, higher total, two bad defenses, injuries on Chicago's defense a little bit. Got rid of their best pass rusher at the trade deadline. So yeah, they're designing plays more for Justin Fields. Lots of different ways you can play it. I think this is the ultimate 2-1 stack game. Play golf with Jerry Rice or Khalif Raymond or whoever. Running back with David Montgomery. Play Justin Fields naked. Again, we're getting crazy here, right? Play him naked or play him with Mooney, Claypool, Kmet, running back with Jamal or St. Brown. I like it a lot because it's pretty cheap and you don't have to fully stack it, which is always nice.
Yeah, I mean, Fields 6,500 on DraftKings is way more expensive on. Is he the most expensive quarterback on FanDuel?
Wait, is he?
The second most expensive. Mahomes is 8,500. Fields is 83.
I mean, that's crazy. So obviously that doesn't help matters, right? When in saving salary. So maybe you play the golf side on FanDuel. I mean, you play both, right? Fields is scoring like 30 points a game, so like he's a really good play.
But yeah,
the point remains is you don't have to. It's not an expensive stack, even though the quarterback is expensive on one side.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and even if you wanted to play just Fields because he has such a high rushing upside, that's one where you could go. Maybe if you want a galaxy brain, maybe you do go Fields and then like a 2-1 stack elsewhere or 2-0 stack elsewhere.
Yeah, or like Chris's idea again. We're off the rails here because Chris says a 1-2 stack: Fields, Jerry Rice, Jamal Williams. Like that makes a ton of sense to me as well. If that game scores 55 in Detroit games, maybe 90 points. So
definitely. Last question here before we get up out of here is preferred best cheap defense on DraftKings. Minnesota's 2,200. Cheap.
Yeah,
but I imagine it'll be popular.
Yeah, they'll be popular, and as a Bills fan, I know Star-Lord's dad probably can't fathom that idea of playing the defense against the Bills. Steelers make a ton of sense. I think they're getting TJ Watt back. New Orleans is literally missing 4 offensive linemen. That's not they're 2,800, so not super cheap. If you have to go further down, it gets tougher.
Maybe Colts at 2,500.
Yeah, Colts aren't bad. We know Vegas can lay an egg sometimes. So, yeah, I would try to get up to Pittsburgh. Green Bay is number 3 in the model, 2,400 against Dallas. I don't know why that is, to be honest. I haven't looked too deep into it, but that could be a trust the model spot.
Definitely. So, any last words, comments, concerns before I take us out of here, Brian?
No, just good luck tomorrow. Hop in the Discord chat at 11 a.m. where Chris will break down stuff, and I think he's putting out the video later today too for some more thoughts. So make sure you check that out. And yeah, it's a weird week. I think you could even characterize it as a bad week for DFS. So a little micro dosing never hurt anybody when it comes to building lineups on a slate like this.
As Chris points out, preview video for me will be hitting the channel a couple hours where he actually gives out good plays.
Yes, which is why we hired Chris and have him on staff, because he actually gives out the plays you should definitely play instead of us just theorizing about the worst possible plays on the board.
Definitely, yeah. So again, check that video out later tonight. We just had the UFC live stream. UFC, I think, goes on in the hour, so you have just enough time to check out the video Brian and Jake did right before that. We do have our Discord channel. OccupyFantasy.com/Discord is where you can go ahead and find us. Tomorrow, Chris will be breaking down in the Discord NFL Pre-Lock live channel. Always a fun time in there. We'll be back Tuesday to discuss Brian's lineup review on the $1 Million Mission, and then we'll be back again 1 week from today to go ahead and talk about the theory of DFS. I can't finish that sentence because isn't that copyrighted?
Yeah, we'll get a cease and desist letter, I think.
Yeah. Bad plays only. Hour. There we go. Definitely. So, yeah, until next time, Moose and Brian from Occupy Fantasy. Have a good night.
Peace.